One of the things that's definitive, in order to build something in a factory or in the theoretical, you need absolute information because it absolutely has to match the theoretical when you're building in the factory, and it absolutely has to get installed based on that theoretical. So all the technology associated with that is helpful, i.e., for instance, the dimensional accuracy is easily measured by robotic surveying, et cetera. You can test it against theoretical and get variances in seconds, which used to take forever and frankly really couldn't meet the accuracy. That's one thing.
Roger Krulak, welcome to 20 Minute Leaders. I'm so excited to have you for another episode here, bringing thought leaders, domain experts, innovators, and entrepreneurs to inspire us all with what you're spending most of your time on and why you're so excited about what you're doing. So thank you, Roger, for taking the time here. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your work.
Michael, thank you so much for the invitation. It's an honor to be here today. And let me tell you a little bit about Fullstack. Fullstack is a fully volumetric modular solution, very focused on urban environment, mid to high rise. So hotels, student housing, dormitories. That's the majority of our business.
So the word modular, well, that has a significant impact. What does that mean here in this context?
Such a good question. I'm not actually sure modular means anything anymore. It's been so overused. It's sort of like Kleenex or tissue. It doesn't really mean anything. So let me spend 2 seconds explaining what it is. So the word modular has too many applications, and there was a great report done by McKinsey, sort of 2019-ish, that explained the differentiation between it. It's a good resource if somebody wants to take a look at it. But in short, all kinds of things are considered modular. Panelized construction, precast concrete, parking lots, curtain wall systems, the whole lot of things are called modular. And then a whole bunch of supply chain has now picked up the word modular, so it's lost really what a definition of what it is. But what Fullstack Modular does is fully volumetric, modular, integrated solutions that are fully volumetric boxes, fully fit out, fully distributed, and very focused on the urban process. And the Singaporeans named it prefabricated, prefinished volumetric construction, which I think is a very good definition, but far too complicated for anyone to pick up in the United States. But it's very accurate, and that's what we do.
Incredible. And so you've been at this for a while. I mean, you have a family background also in this space. What has been really the core evolution of real estate and construction from your perspective?
So the construction space, certainly the built environment, especially as it relates to housing, is in flux and transition. The reality is that the current industry, the way it's organized, certainly in the United States and other places, is unable to meet the market need significantly, both from a cost perspective and from an output perspective. And so volumetric modular construction that Fullstack engages in is one avenue to try to increase the throughput and meet the need in a way that is, accretive to diminishing the market gap. And so that's really what Fullstack has been focused on, at least for the last 5 years. How do we provide a solution that meets the market need?
And so is it really all about scale, or are there different considerations for why to do this?
Yeah, you asked me a very simple question. That's a very complicated answer. And the answer to your question is that just like the stock market, the construction market is very volatile in its increase and decrease in pricing, and it's basically based on current market need at a specific time. And as a result of that, it's pretty lumpy. Projects take a long time to get approved. There are government holdups. There's financing holdups right now. developers, for example, are buying distressed properties rather than building new because the market value is higher for that at the moment. That the cap rates are climbing, so because interest rates are also climbing, and so as a result of that, um, you have a pause in sort of concerted development, or at least in most places. So one option that we have put forward is that you can use industrialization, which is used in almost every other industry other than construction, including all the pieces and parts that go into construction or the built environment. And in order to incorporate the economies of scale that are created by industrialization, you need steady flow, right? So workflow or single piece flow, as is in almost every, is required in order to be highly efficient in what you do. So you have a dichotomy goal, right? So developers don't want to build until the market is right, and they want it to flow in a way that works for them from a IRR or return perspective, which is absolutely the right thing to do. And sometimes that creates a lumpy situation where throughput is unpredictable. Then you have an industrialization effort, which wants constant flow. So how do you mix the two in a way that is accretive to the end goals? And that is, in short, the problem. Technology can help increase productivity, increase accuracy, increase quality, but until factories are busy all the time, you have an overhead gap problem. You have a learning problem. Industrialization requires that you have somewhat repetitive work happening over and over again, so you get economies of scale. So if it's lumpy, the learning slows down, the throughput slows down, and as a result of that, the cost doesn't get significantly better. So average developer calls Fullstack or any other modular manufacturer up and say, how much does it cost to build a 120,000 foot building in X location? And although we can answer that question, the value proposition isn't really met unless you have constant throughput so that you can manufacture it. If you can manufacture cars or telephones or rocket ships or airplanes, as long as your QA/QC is good, it's fine. But if you can't do that, then you don't get all of the value that you literally can from an industrialized process. The other part of it, which is worth noting, is that traditionally in this country, we have been a design bid build process whereby you come up with a design, you send it out to a bunch of general contractors and their associated subtrades, and you get a price for something that's already baked, which is relatively inefficient. We have, as an industry, just taken the lowest bidder, regardless of the scope gaps associated with it. And our big, sort of GCs and construction managers have gotten very savvy at trying to level bids. And now what we're doing is we're inserting a process that really wants to move to a design build process, where everybody's sitting at the table with the goals defined at the beginning. That's a big industry shift. And that's what's happening right now. And by the way, it's not only happening with modular, it's happening, public and private institutions are now starting, I won't say embrace, they're starting to accept the fact that design build offers opportunities that you can't get with design bid build. And as a result of that willingness to shift, the industry is also benefiting.
Mm-hmm. How is technology impacting all of this? So everything that's happening with AI, with software, with planning, 3D, landscaping. I mean, how are things changing from your experience now?
All kinds of opportunity in the AI world. So one of the things that's definitive, in order to build something in a factory or in the theoretical, you need absolute information because it absolutely has to match the theoretical when you're building in the factory, and it absolutely has to get installed based on that theoretical. So all the technology associated with that is helpful, i.e., for instance, the dimensional accuracy is easily measured by robotic surveying, et cetera. You can test it against theoretical and get variances in seconds which used to take forever and frankly really couldn't meet the accuracy. That's one thing. The other thing is that because, like every manufacturing process, we have sort of moderately to less skilled labor, we need to give very specific instructions. And to create very specific instructions for a building that's 150,000 feet is thousands and thousands and thousands of pages. With AI, you can come up with a game plan. You can create a sort of prototype solution. Then you can list its variables, and then you can have an AI program just run all the drawings, and then you just need to QA/QC them and see if your rules. It's not even on the computer. It's if the rules were accurate or the rules were inaccurate, and as a result of that, you can end up with very rapidly deployable production processes. So those two things for sure. And right now, we've been actually working with an AI program that actually takes modular parameters and also zoning information and then combines the two to see multiple variables of the building you could build on that site using your parameters in seconds. So all of those things could talk a lot more about sort of automation in the industrialized space, but all those things are making it easier as a team to create solutions that work and are identifiable, costable, predictable.
Very cool. I mean, one of the things that I'm always very intrigued by and curious about is the transformation that AI has on traditional industries, on industries that are here. They've been around for a while. There's they serve some very fundamental necessities of people, of our life, like the places we work and the places we live, right? And so besides the planning, where else do you see technology, software, AI integrating into the workflow of the work that you're doing? Where are the big, I guess, not even what's coming up next, because who knows, but what are the big pain points that you're still observing, that you're saying, wow, here are really tremendous opportunities that people can leverage if they have great technology?
Well, I think I identified a bunch of them, and those are significant in that they are solving for what is it that we are going to do quickly. So that's because obviously that's way better than you can get in a design bid build process. Of course, in addition to that, there is the opportunity to automate physical tasks, certainly on a low hanging fruit process, so that you can provide robot code as instructions in lieu of sort of specific instructions to a human. And the opportunity there, excuse me, the opportunity there is to increase productivity of the workforce because the repetitive work can be augmented by some level of automation, and the information that's coming out of the design process is translatable machine code, for example, and that's a huge opportunity. The other thing that it does is it provides pretty easy calculation of what it costs, what the expected productivity time is, how long it is. Our industry, different from the conventional construction industry, is really time, material, and overhead, like any manufacturer. So when you can increase productivity, you decrease your costs. And when you have more throughput, you decrease your overhead. So those are the paradigms we play with, and sort of enhanced human productivity by virtue of utilizing the technologies that are available is valuable.
Really interesting. If we think towards the future a little bit about how our spaces we look, our homes, our buildings, are there shifts happening in the way we're thinking through our living situations and environment? I mean, is this even something that's in discussion, or did we nail it? I mean, are we at sort of the peak, or where are we in the evolution of optimizing our space?
Well, I don't think we really know what optimization of our space means yet, because I think we are in a shift right now. I mean, obviously, as you described, COVID changed a lot of things, right? Work at home as part of your work process. What kind of space as a result of that we need as human beings and expect? Is there motivation to move into a dense urban environment, or is there a shift to sort of secondary or tertiary cities? And what does that mean from a quality and housing perspective? And then you can shift to how interested are we to have our built environment be responsive to things like climate change, sustainability, all of those things. The reality is that we are just starting to measure how our buildings perform. And I don't think we really yet have an accurate way of calculating the effect, and we've done lots of exercises on it. And so have many people. Like, what is the removal of carbon from the process that you're doing in relation to a baseline? But the problem is that we don't really have many baselines. So we're still learning how to measure, which I think is the first step. And then once we measure, we'll be able to improve that process. So my answer to your question is, I don't think it's a one thing we've nailed it, because I think that we are evolving, sort of in what we want. If you want to cure climate change, it's pretty simple, right? You create as dense a population as you can with all the services proximate to what they're doing, organize the work around those people, and put it all in one building that is highly sustainable. You're going to have huge impact on carbon footprint of all the people in that building and the building itself. But we're not necessarily doing that. And for years, and I mean 40 years, people have been urging, certainly in the United States, developers to think about secondary costs or long-term costs of a choice to, say, be slightly less sustainable or lower construction costs on the beginning, because obviously that drives IRR. But what happens to the building over time? How hard is it to capture the cost savings of, say, for instance, efficient operation as opposed to sort of conventional operation, and how much can you save and what's the second cost with it? And we're still in that process. We're getting way better at it, but we're still there. We're still in that process.
Very, very cool. Roger, to wrap us up, what has been the most enjoyable aspect for you in working and leading in this space? So what part of this, of your work, of this category, really brings you joy, inspiration, fulfillment?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a huge believer that people should have a place to live. If it seems to be like it's a right that's not necessarily delivered, and our efforts to industrialize the built environment, especially focused on housing, because that's really our space, albeit multifamily. The idea of creating that and providing that as an opportunity drives me. So whether it's working on affordable housing or student dorms or places for people to stay while they're building, the U.S. is building tons of manufacturing capacity, but very few places that are building the manufacturing capacity have housing available. So it's helping solve a puzzle that we created ourselves, which can be great for the United States in the long run, but we've got lots of problems to solve, and this is one of them. So I like being in the mix of that.
Incredible. Roger, I really want to thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here and for sharing this conversation with me. Another different category, another different landscape, but again, excited and passionate entrepreneur in yourself. So thank you again for this time, and I'm excited to share this with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for the time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.